What is the best way to analyze malware? Well, it certainly isn't just throwing it on our production system and see what happens. In this nugget, I'd like to chat with you about perhaps using a system dedicated for the purpose of investigating malware, and share some examples of tools that we might use in the process of debugging or deassembling applications to gain more information about how they work. Hackers have a lot of really sneaky techniques to help evade or get around antivirus or anti-malware software. They may divide the malware into multiple pieces and then zip them all together as one file. Or if there's malicious software that's known, they may change the content of the malware using a hex editor, and as a result, the hash value will be different. So any malware detection software that's looking for a specific hash value, it won't match that. And a lot of times, an attacker or hacker will create their malware from scratch and embed it into an application because they know that if they use a publicly available piece of malware, that it's very likely the anti-malware software can identify it and stop it from doing its damage. Now, I've got a question for you. Let's say that Bob at this computer right here has some software that he's about to install. Maybe it's on a flash drive or he's downloaded it and he's about to install it. How does Bob know that the software he's about to install isn't malicious? And the answer is he doesn't for sure. He can take steps in that direction. For example, he could verify the MD5 hash on the file and then compare that hash value against the published value from the actual manufacturer of that software. That could be a really good indicator that the software isn't malicious, as long as Bob hasn't been DNS spoofed and is going to an incorrect website. Because an attacker could create malicious software and then do DNS poisonings though, and Bob thinks he's going to acme.com because the DNS resolution has been messed up for his computer, he could be going to a fake website where they could publish a fake MD5 hash, and then if it matched, that wouldn't mean that Bob has safe software. Although checking the MD5 hash is a good step in the right direction to make sure we don't have malicious software. Another technique that we can use before just plugging something into our computer, for example, a flash drive or a CD-ROM drive, or some new application, is we could have special purpose computers that are set up just for the testing and analysis of software. The concept behind sheep dip is when farmers or ranchers, the people who raise sheep, herders, would take the sheep and they would put some chemicals in water. Then they'd have the sheep go into that water, which would hopefully kill the parasites and fungus and so forth that might otherwise be present on that sheep. Well, a sheep dip system could be one that's hardened and ready to go, where when we add an application or software, we plug in media, it can analyze that to hopefully identify malicious code on this sheep dip system before we have that code at large on our network. So this computer, we'll call it computer A. The sheep dip system can be used for the analysis of suspect files, or incoming messages, or flash drives that we want to plug into a system, or removable media that we want to test. Again, looking for malware. So in preparation for that, before we ever attach the media or install the software, this system is going to have port monitors. In fact, let me go ahead and just put some dittos down here to repeat monitors. We're going to have registry monitors if it's Windows-based. We're going to have file monitors. We're going to have process monitors. We're going to have network monitors. We're likely going to have at least one antivirus software running there. And this machine is also going to be isolated from our production network so that if this machine does get infected or there's an issue with it, it's not going to spread that to the rest of our network. So as part of creating this system A, we'd likely do the following. We'd create a virtual machine because it's easier to build and easier to replicate. Also, it's easier to roll back. As part of that virtual machine, we install a guest operating system. For example, maybe it's Windows or Linux or some other operating system in this virtualized environment. We'd make sure that machine is isolated from any other devices so that from a networking perspective, this device does not have the opportunity to communicate and share resources with other devices. We'd want to have all of our monitors and software in place looking at the processes that are running. And then we could go ahead and add the malicious software or the potential malicious software to that system to take a look at how it responds. We also have some additional tools that we might want to use in looking at malware on a system like this. For example, we have some debugging tools and disassembly tools, and those can be used even when the software is not yet running. For example, if you and I wanted to search the binary file for some specific string of text, we could use a tool like bin text, which can go through a file searching for specific strings or specific characters in that file. We could also look at the details regarding the packaging and the compression used for a file by using tools such as UPX. A couple examples of some tools that are used for debugging and disassembly are OLLY, DBG, and IDA Pro. The information gleaned using these disassembly and debugging tools can be helpful for a person who understands programming and the applications that are being looked at. Another great option for analyzing malicious software is using online services. So for example, there are several vendors today who have firewalls in place and they're using UTM, which is an acronym that stands for Unified Threat Management. And a really good UTM system would have the ability to do deep packet analysis and take a look at the application layer to identify malicious software. And when they see applications that are coursing through the network that they can't recognize or don't recognize, many of them have the facility for uploading that content up to the cloud, depending on the provider, whether it's Checkpoint or Palo Alto or some other vendor, and then doing the analysis of that software or that application to see whether or not it indeed is malicious. And one of the benefits of going with a fairly large vendor is that the vendor can take all that information from all the software they're analyzing and they can do updates to the firewall so that after new malicious software has been identified, other customers from that same vendor have the opportunity to do updates so that they also get the protection from that newly identified malicious software. There's also a website called VirusTotal, which is pretty amazing. And at VirusTotal, what you can do is you can actually take software that you think might be malicious, you can upload it, they can identify whether or not they've already identified that based on the hash, or they can go ahead and simply process it as a new file. At VirusTotal, you also have the ability to submit a URL in case you think that URL is malicious. Here's an example of a packager. This is UPX. If we type in UPX and press enter, they'll supply us the options, or at least some of them that are available with this program, to compress or decompress applications. For example, here we have a -L to display the software license. So if we did a UPX space, and let's go ahead and do a -L space and then upx.exe, it'll give us the software license for upx.exe. It also gives us a clue of why it's called UPX, the ultimate packer for executables. So if we had some malware that was packaged using UPX, we could also use UPX to get information about those packaged files. Here we have an example of bin text, which can allow us to search within a file for strings of text. For example, if we want to grab a file, we click on Browse. And for this example, let's go ahead and grab the FG-dump file that's in our Downloads folder already. And then on the Filter tab, we can specify the characters that we want included in the string we're looking for, including the string size and also what must be in the string. And then if we click on Help, it gives us information regarding this tool, which is created by McAfee. So if we go back to the Search tab, and I'm just using the defaults that were in place regarding what we're searching for, and click on Go, I now have hundreds of lines of output because I'm searching for a whole boatload of stuff. If we refined our search to certain characters or certain strings of text, this tool could help you and I search down to that level of exactly what we're looking for. So if we knew, for example, there's a certain string of text in malicious software, we could search the binary for that string, and if it shows up, that could be one of many indicators that this software really indeed is malicious. This is an example of an assembly level debugging tool, and this tool is called OLLY-DBG. So in this tool, I went to File, I said Open, and I actually opened up the executable for the application itself as an example. And again, this could be used to help dig into the details of how a program is operating and what makes it tick. And regarding online services, let's go ahead and take a look at virustotal.com. So we'll go to virustotal.com, press enter. I also like the idea that they have redirected us to their secure version of the site using HTTPS, and they're using a digital certificate that's signed by a certificate authority that my current browser trusts. So if we had a URL we wanted to submit, we could do it here, or if we had a file we wanted to submit, we could do it here. So let's go ahead and click on Choose File. And in my Downloads folder, I've got FG-dump, which is a SAM database dumping tool. Let's go ahead and grab that. And with that selected, we'll go ahead and click on Scan It. Now it's going to upload that up to virustotal.com. It's saying that that file has already been analyzed. It was last analyzed by VirusTotal a little while ago, and it was first analyzed, check this out, in 2008. This has been around for a while. So we could click on Reanalyze, and they would reanalyze this file, or we could go ahead and click on View Last Analysis. So as we scroll down, here are the antivirus companies, and over here in the result, the red represents that they see that file as a problem. And for some vendors, they're simply recognizing that, hey, this is malicious software used in malicious ways, or other vendors may be recognizing the version I have as having some type of a trojan or additional malicious software as a payload within it. And down here at the bottom, and the list goes on a little bit further, it's identifying various companies that are not, for one reason or another, not recognizing that as malicious software. So online resources like VirusTotal can be a great resource, whether we have a sheep dip system, which is analyzing malicious software, or whether we simply come across some software or come across a URL and we want to get a second opinion on it before we execute the file or go to that URL. In this nugget, we've looked at some methods and tools that we can use to analyze malware. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.